The galaxy had grown used to silence from Earth. For centuries, the blue planet had been treated as nothing more than a forgotten corner of space, a small and broken world that had no power, no voice, and no future. The Great Galactic Council rarely spoke of Earth anymore, and when they did, it was with laughter or scorn. To them, Earth was a world that had burned itself out, a species that had wasted its chance and now lingered in the shadows of history. But silence has a way of making people uneasy, and in the long halls of the Council, some had begun to whisper. Spies from distant empires spoke in quiet tones of strange things. They said Earth was not as weak as it seemed. They said strange signals were moving through the void around the planet, signals no one could explain. For years, the Council dismissed the reports as foolishness, the imagination of paranoid scouts. Yet the rumors did not stop. Instead, they grew. It was easy to forget Earth once, but now it was harder. From the black edges of the galaxy came strange disappearances. A patrol ship would send a signal near Earth's sector and then vanish, its last message filled with static and broken words. Traders who dared cross close to Earth claimed they saw lights flicker in the planet's orbit, lights too sharp and deliberate to be natural. Some swore they heard whispers in their comms, voices that did not belong. The Council tried to dismiss it again. Earth, they said, was broken. Earth, they said, had no fleets, no armies, no weapons of power. They reminded each other of Earth's past failures, of how humanity had fought endless wars and nearly destroyed itself. To them, Earth was a graveyard of pride and violence. What could the dead do to the living? But not all in the Council were so calm. A few remembered history. They remembered how fast humanity had once grown, how quickly they had built machines, ships, and weapons. They remembered that humanity was stubborn, and when cornered, they struck harder than anyone. Those few spoke warnings in the great chambers, but their voices were drowned in laughter. Still, the silence of Earth remained. No ships left its orbit. No traders went in or out. No signals of welcome were sent to the stars. To the galaxy, it seemed Earth had chosen to disappear from history, to bury itself under its own soil and sky. But deep inside the Council's chambers, unease spread like a shadow. The spies were nervous. They came with trembling voices, with eyes darting to every corner of the chamber. They told of energy readings, powerful and strange, rising from Earth's surface. They said the ground shook as if massive engines lay beneath it. They claimed to have seen structures on the dark side of the moon, black towers that glowed faintly, pulsing like the heartbeat of some great beast. Each report was laughed at in public, but in private, the Council members whispered about them. Humanity, it seemed, had gone quiet not because it was weak, but because it was waiting. And waiting was always dangerous. The galaxy was full of empires that rose and fell, species that lived in glory and then crumbled into dust. Most of them faded with cries, with last desperate wars, or with begging hands stretched towards stronger neighbors. But Earth had faded with silence. Silence was not surrender. Silence was choice. Silence was preparation. In dark rooms far from the Council, commanders looked again at old records of humanity. They saw battles where Earth's people had fought with fury unmatched, where even in defeat, they had scarred their enemies. They saw how humans could adapt to almost anything, could twist weakness into strength, could take scraps of broken machines and turn them into weapons. It was said among some scholars that humanity's greatest weapon was not their ships or their bombs but their will. And that will had not died. It had only gone into hiding. Now, as the galaxy moved forward, the question grew sharper. What was Earth waiting for? The reports grew stronger. A ship passing near Earth had detected bursts of radiation, sharp and controlled, like the ignition of something vast. Another ship swore it saw a fleet, shadowy shapes moving in the dark, too well formed to be illusions. A single image escaped from one of the scouts, a brief glimpse of a black ship that seemed to swallow the light around it, larger than anything the Council fleets had in their arsenal. The image was blurry, but it spread quickly among the inner circles. If true, it meant Earth had built something new. Something dangerous. Still, most of the Council laughed. To them, it was a trick, or worse, a desperate lie from frightened scouts. Earth cannot build such things, they said. Earth is dead. But in the quiet of their private chambers, when the lights were low and the stars burned outside their windows, even the boldest Council members could not shake the thought. If Earth was dead, why did it still make the galaxy nervous? Time moved slowly, and with it came more silence. Then, without warning, something changed. A signal was picked up on the edges of the galaxy. Not a voice, not a message, just a pulse. A deep, rhythmic pulse of energy that rippled through the void like the beat of a drum. The source was Earth. The council gathered quickly, their voices rising in panic. The signal was too strong, too steady, to be natural. It was as if the planet itself was alive, its heartbeat echoing across the stars. For the first time in centuries, Earth had spoken, but not with words. With power. The council demanded answers. Fleets were sent to investigate. Scouts pushed closer than before. But those who went near Earth never came back. Their signals would vanish mid-sentence, their last words filled with static and fear. One scout captain's final transmission was a scream followed by silence, cut off so abruptly that it chilled even the hardest generals. Whispers spread through the galaxy. Traders told stories of ships with human markings moving through the darkness, silent and fast, appearing for moments and then vanishing. Some claimed Earth had built weapons that could bend light, that could hide entire fleets. Others claimed they had unlocked something older, something hidden deep beneath the planet's crust, waiting to be unleashed. The council no longer laughed. The silence had become something else. It was no longer the silence of weakness but the silence of a predator waiting to strike. And then came the final report, the one that broke even the boldest. An outpost near Earth system detected waves of energy unlike anything recorded before. The readings were violent, surging, growing stronger with each passing hour. The outpost sent the data, its voice trembling with fear. The council studied the waves, and their faces turned pale. This was no accident. This was no natural event. This was power, vast and deliberate, rising from Earth itself. The outpost sent one final message before it too fell silent. Something is waking on Earth. And it is not weak. The council chamber grew quiet. For the first time in living memory, fear spread across the galaxy's rulers. Earth, the forgotten world, the silent planet, was not broken. It was waiting. It was preparing. And now, it was beginning to rise. The council chamber was restless. The leaders of many worlds sat around the great circular table, their faces hidden by shadows, the bright flare of the nearby star burning on the vast display behind them. Normally, such meetings were full of confidence, of arrogance, of laughter at the weakness of smaller species. But now the air was heavy. For the first time in centuries, all eyes turned toward one forgotten world. Earth. The whispers had grown too loud to ignore. Energy waves from the human planet were spreading farther every day. Ships sent near the sector had failed to return. The silence, once dismissed as weakness, now pressed on the council like a weight they could not escape. One councillor, his scaled skin glinting faintly under the chamber lights, slammed a clawed hand on the table. "We should act now," he hissed. "This is no coincidence. Earth hides something. Something dangerous. They are building in the dark, and if we wait, it will be too late." A ripple of unease moved through the chamber. Another voice, older and colder, rose in reply. "Earth is nothing. We all know this. They destroyed themselves long ago. They have no fleets, no allies, no future. What can a dying species do to the stars?" But even as he spoke, there was no laughter. No one dared laugh anymore. The reports were too clear. A station orbiting near the human system had captured fragments of sound, deep mechanical rumblings, the kind that only massive engines could make. Another station had caught flashes of strange lights moving in precise formation. And a lone scout had sent a broken image, a shape in the void, dark and vast, before the signal died. The chamber grew tense as a third councillor leaned forward, her eyes sharp as blades. "What if the humans have found something?" she asked softly. "What if their silence is not weakness, but strategy? Perhaps they wait. Perhaps they have been waiting all along." The words struck the chamber like a stone on glass. Waiting. The thought echoed through every mind. Humanity was stubborn. History remembered their wars, their defiance, their refusal to bow even when defeat seemed certain. Waiting would be exactly their way. Arguments broke out. Some demanded fleets be sent at once to crush Earth before it could rise. Others warned that such an attack might awaken whatever weapon they had been building. A few whispered that perhaps diplomacy should be tried, but their voices were drowned by the roar of fear and pride. Still, the decision came. A small fleet would be sent, not to attack, but to watch. To see. To measure what truly stirred on that silent planet. The council ended in silence, but outside those walls, the whispers spread. Across the great trade routes, captains spoke nervously of Earth. Merchants who once dismissed it as nothing now changed their routes to avoid the human sector. Soldiers spoke of omens, of stars dimming when they passed near. It was nonsense, of course, but fear needs no truth to grow. The fleet set out quietly, its ships sleek and armed, engines burning cold as they moved into the void. They carried with them orders not to engage, only to observe. But many of the captains felt unease even before reaching human space. Days passed. The fleet moved closer. And then, one by one, their signals faltered. Static. Broken voices. A scream cut short. The final message from the fleet's admiral was a single phrase before silence consumed the channel. They see us. After that, nothing more. The council chamber erupted in chaos. The fleet had not returned. No wreckage had been found. No debris drifted in the void. It was as if the ships had been swallowed whole by darkness. Some said Earth had built weapons unseen before, weapons that could erase entire fleets without a trace. Others said the humans had unlocked something older, something buried beneath their soil, something the galaxy had forgotten. But none had answers. Only fear. From that day, no one called Earth weak again. It was not a graveyard. It was not forgotten. It was a shadow on the galaxy, heavy and silent, and every day that silence grew louder. The council met again and again, but every meeting ended the same way, in fear, in anger, in confusion. The galaxy watched as the humans remained quiet, and the quiet became unbearable. Silence was no longer safety. Silence was war without sound. And then, the first message came. A signal burst across the void, strong and sharp, reaching every listening ear in the sector. The voice was human, clear, and steady, and it carried only 3 words. We are awake. The stars themselves seemed to tremble. The silence was over. The signal spread across the stars, carried on every wave, captured by every listening device in the sector. 3 simple words, steady and cold, echoed into the chambers of the Galactic Council. We are awake. Silence filled the room after the transmission ended. For a long time, no one moved, no one spoke. The galaxy had grown used to Earth being quiet, a dead world with no voice. But now the humans had spoken, and their voice carried with it something no one wanted to admit: strength. 1,000 questions burned in the minds of the counselors. Why now? Why speak after centuries of silence? What had they been doing, hidden away in their forgotten world? And what did they mean by awake? At last, one of the counselors leaned forward, his mandibles clicking with unease. It is a bluff, he said, though his tone lacked confidence. They want to frighten us. They think we are weak enough to believe such simple tricks. Another, with eyes like silver, spoke sharply. You call it a trick, but an entire fleet is gone. Swallowed. Not destroyed, not crippled, gone. Do you call that a trick too? The chamber grew louder as voices overlapped. Some insisted Earth was still weak, its silence nothing more than desperation. Others argued the humans had hidden their true progress, working in shadows while the galaxy ignored them. No one agreed, but everyone was afraid to say the words that lingered in their minds: humanity was back. While the council argued, far from their grand chambers, strange events unfolded near the edge of human space. Traders reported seeing ships, dark, sharp-edged, moving without light. They glided across the void like predators, silent and swift. No transponders. No signals. Just the quiet presence of machines too perfect to be the ruins of an old civilization. One trader swore he had seen a human ship up close. He described it as black as night, so dark it seemed to eat the stars around it. Its surface was smooth, without markings, and its engines made no visible glow. When it passed his vessel, his instruments went dead. For 10 minutes, he floated in darkness, his ship powerless, his heart pounding as the shadow glided past. Then, as suddenly as it came, it was gone, and his systems returned. He left the sector and never returned. The council dismissed his account in public, but in private, they listened closely. Too many voices told the same stories. Too many shadows moved where no shadows should be. On Earth itself, deep beneath ruined cities and empty skies, humanity stirred. They had waited long, longer than most species could endure. Generations had lived in the dark, building, planning, preparing. They had learned from their mistakes, turned their scars into lessons, and their failures into strength. In massive underground vaults, engines rumbled. In secret orbital stations, fleets gathered in silence. For centuries, humanity had hidden its fire, showing the galaxy nothing but ashes. But now the fire was rising, and soon the stars would burn with it. The first proof came quietly. A small outpost at the edge of human territory detected a transmission, short, encrypted, impossible to break. The signal was traced, and for a brief moment, the outpost's instruments captured an image. A fleet, human in design but nothing like the old ships of Earth. Sleek, dark, built for war. The image lasted only seconds before the system crashed, and when it was restored, the data was gone. The outpost's commander sent a single urgent report to the Council: they are not rebuilding. They are ready. Panic spread. The Council tried to hide the truth, but rumors were faster than secrecy. Soldiers whispered that humanity had fleets greater than the Council itself. Merchants claimed humans had weapons that could rip stars apart. Some said they had made alliances with machines, others with forces older than the galaxy itself. Fear twisted into legends, and the legends made humanity larger than life. In the shadows of the Council, some leaders began to regret. They remembered how Earth had been treated centuries ago, mocked, dismissed, even exploited. Resources taken, warnings ignored, voices silenced. They had believed humanity would break. But humanity did not break. Humanity endured. Now the galaxy trembled at the thought of what Earth might want. Would they seek revenge? Would they demand submission? Or did they have a plan none could yet see? Then, without warning, a message appeared on dozens of channels at once. It was not long, not complicated, but it was enough to freeze every heart that heard it. The voice was human, calm, steady, without anger, without mercy. We watched. We remembered. We learned. The stars belong to those who are strong, and we are strong again. The council chamber fell into silence once more. Every leader, every voice, every proud empire suddenly felt small. Humanity was not asking for recognition. Humanity was declaring itself. And somewhere, in the dark halls of their hidden cities, the humans prepared to step into the stars once more. Not as victims. Not as the weak. But as hunters returning to the field. The galaxy had been warned. Humanity had awakened. The galaxy had not yet recovered from the shock of Earth's voice when the first strike came. At first, it seemed like nothing more than rumor. A small patrol fleet near the outer rim had vanished, and the council dismissed it as an accident, a malfunction, or pirates. But then another fleet vanished. And then another. Entire squadrons, ships with the strongest shields and the finest weapons, disappeared as if they had never existed. The council chambers were filled with shouting. Some leaders demanded answers. Others demanded war. Yet no answers came. All they had were fragments, static-filled messages, voices cut short, images of shadows gliding through the dark before the signal died. In one transmission, a captain cried out, "They are here," before silence consumed his ship. The council sent larger fleets. Ships with escorts. Fleets that carried weapons to burn entire planets. They moved into human space with arrogance, believing their numbers and their firepower would be enough. But arrogance was not armor. One fleet entered Earth's sector and never returned. The council waited for days, then weeks, for a single ship to emerge. None came. The silence spread like a disease. At last, fragments began to surface. A drifting satellite, found on the edge of human territory, carried a broken recording. The images were distorted, but what they showed was enough to shake the bravest commanders. The fleet had been surrounded, not by thousands of ships, but by a few dozen. They were black and sharp, moving like shadows in the void. They struck with weapons that pierced through shields as if they were air. Ships vanished in bursts of white light, torn apart before they could even fire. The humans did not fight with numbers. They fought with precision, with speed, with something the galaxy had never seen before. The council studied the recording in silence. One counselor, his voice trembling, whispered, "They destroyed an entire fleet, with less than 100 ships." No one laughed this time. No one doubted. The truth was clear. Earth had returned, and it had returned stronger than anyone could have imagined. The galaxy panicked. Traders fled from the outer rim. Worlds near human space sent desperate messages to the council, begging for protection. Armies were mobilized, fleets pulled back from distant wars. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy turned its full attention to Earth. And then the humans spoke again. This time, the message was not short. It was not hidden. It was sent on open channels, loud enough for anyone to hear. The voice was calm, almost cold, yet filled with certainty. "We warned you. You did not listen. You thought Earth was broken, that humanity was gone. But we endured. We built in silence. We learned in shadows. And now we are ready." The message paused, and across the galaxy, countless beings held their breath. The fleets you lost were nothing. A test. The beginning. We are not here to be ignored. We are not here to beg. We are here to take our place among the stars. Those who stand against us will fall. Those who stand with us will endure. The choice is yours. The message ended, leaving only silence. But the silence was no longer Earth's. It belonged to the galaxy now. In the council chamber, fear turned to rage. Some demanded war. Others whispered of surrender. The chamber broke into chaos, but beneath their arguments, the truth was clear. Humanity had struck, and nothing would be the same again. Far from the council's halls, in the cold dark of space, another fleet prepared to move. This time, it was not a patrol fleet, not a group of scouts. It was one of the council's largest armadas, thousands of ships strong, sent to crush Earth in one decisive blow. The commanders swore they would end the threat before it spread. They swore humanity would be broken once and for all. But the humans were waiting. As the armada entered Earth's system, their sensors flickered. Systems failed. Engines dimmed. And then the shadows appeared. Dozens, then hundreds, then thousands of human ships emerged from the dark, silent and precise. The battle that followed was unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. The Council's armada fired with all its power, burning the void with light and fire. But the human ships moved faster, sharper, weaving through the storm with deadly grace. Their weapons struck not at shields or armor, but at the very hearts of the ships, tearing them apart with a single blow. Within hours, the armada was gone. Ships scattered, broken, drifting in silence. The survivors sent desperate calls for help, but their voices were drowned by static. The humans did not chase the survivors. They did not finish the battle. Instead, they sent one final broadcast. "We will not warn again. The age of silence is over. The age of humanity has begun." The stars burned with the fury of Earth. The council chamber was in chaos. The air rang with shouts, accusations, and the sound of fists slamming against polished metal tables. Never in living memory had the galaxy seen such panic. The destruction of the armada was not just a defeat, it was humiliation. Thousands of ships, the pride of the council's power, had been swept aside in a single battle. Earth had not just fought them, it had crushed them. Councillors screamed at each other, their voices filled with fear and rage. Some demanded immediate retaliation. "Send everything we have," one cried. "Burn Earth to ash before they strike again." Others warned that such action would only make things worse. "You saw the recordings. Their weapons cut through us as if our shields were nothing. Throwing more ships at them will not stop them, it will only feed their fire." Paranoia spread like poison. Whispers filled the chamber. Perhaps one of us helped them. Perhaps humans did not rise alone. Perhaps one of our own betrayed us. Fingers pointed. Accusations were hurled. Old rivalries between council races reignited as fear tore away the thin veil of unity. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, panic rippled outward. Worlds under council protection began to question their safety. Colonies near human space reported evacuations, their citizens fleeing to deeper systems. Merchants refused to travel routes that crossed Earth's sector. Even soldiers began to doubt. If the mighty council fleets could not stand against Earth, What chance did anyone else have? A shadow of despair fell over the galaxy. The Council could no longer hide the truth. Earth was strong, stronger than they had imagined. Humanity had been silent, but in silence it had forged weapons that could bend battles in hours. On Earth itself, deep beneath the surface, humanity continued to prepare. They did not celebrate their victories. They did not boast of their power. They built. They planned. And they waited. The humans knew fear was a weapon, and already it was spreading faster than their fleets. The Council was breaking itself apart without a single human stepping into their chamber. But humanity did not leave the Council in peace. One night, when the chamber was full, a new message played across every screen, cutting through their arguments. The face of a human appeared, not in shadow, not distorted, but clear and sharp. His expression was calm, his voice steady, his eyes cold. "You believed Earth was dead," he said. "You mocked us, ignored us, used us. For centuries we waited, and while you laughed, we built. While you argued, we prepared. Now we are ready. You thought we would beg for a place among you. We will not beg. We will not kneel. We will decide who belongs among the stars." The chamber fell silent. No one dared speak. The human continued. "We do not seek destruction. We do not seek war without reason. But understand this, those who stand against us will not survive. We offer a choice. Submit and live. Resist and fall. The age of the Council is over. The age of Earth has begun." The screen went dark. For a long moment, the chamber was frozen. Then voices broke out again, louder than before. Some demanded the Council surrender, others swore they would never bow to humans. One by one, alliances began to crack. Empires that had stood together for centuries turned on each other. Some wanted to bargain with Earth for safety. Others wanted to fight until the end. The chaos reached beyond the chamber. Civilizations that once trusted the Council now questioned its power. Small empires whispered that perhaps siding with Earth was safer than standing against them. Rebellions began to stir on distant worlds. The humans had not only won battles, they had sown division across the stars. And as the Council fought among themselves, Earth moved again. A human fleet appeared above a world loyal to the Council. They did not fire. They did not invade. They hovered in orbit, black shadows blotting out the sky. For 3 days, they remained without a word, and the world below lived in terror. Then, as suddenly as they came, they were gone. The message was clear. Earth did not need to destroy to control. Fear alone was enough. In secret meetings, some councillors admitted what others would not say aloud: the Council could no longer stop Earth. They could not trust each other. They could not rely on their fleets. And deep down, they all knew the truth: humanity was not rising. Humanity had already risen. The galaxy waited for fire, for blood, for war without end. Yet when humanity spoke again, it was not with weapons. It was with words. Across every channel, on every world under the Council, the transmission cut through. Screens lit up, comms crackled to life, and the face of a human leader appeared once more. His presence was calm, almost unnervingly so, as though he carried no fear of the galaxy watching him. Behind him, faintly visible, were shadows of towering machines, dark and silent. "You expect us to destroy you," the human said, his voice even. "You expect us to burn your fleets, your cities, your worlds. We will not begin with destruction. We will begin with truth." The chamber of the Council froze as the message unfolded. The human's eyes locked forward, cold and steady, as though he stared into the heart of every living being watching. "For centuries, you ignored us. You called us weak, broken, unworthy of the stars. You came to our world not to help but to take. You stripped our resources, stole our knowledge, enslaved our people in silence. You told us we were too small, too violent, too fragile to endure. But we endured. We remembered. And we learned." The words carried weight heavier than any weapon. Across the galaxy, silence reigned. Billions listened, not to a threat, but to a story they had never heard told aloud. The human's tone hardened. "You thought silence was weakness. It was not. Silence was preparation. While you debated and argued in your halls, we built. While you looked away, we dug deeper, reached farther, dreamed larger. We made your laughter into our fuel. And now we stand, not as victims, but as a force you cannot ignore. In the council chamber, some shifted uncomfortably. Others clenched their fists. The truth was sharp, and it cut deeper than any blade. They remembered the raids, the exploitation, the arrogance with which they had treated Earth. And now those choices had returned to them. The human leaned closer. His voice dropped, low but clear. You have a choice. Submit, and we will allow you to live. Resist, and you will fall. We are not asking. We are not begging. We are declaring. The stars are ours now. The screen went black. For a long time, no one spoke. The counselors stared at one another, their faces pale, their hearts racing. The humans had not fired a single shot in this message, but the weight of it crushed them more than any battle could. Across the galaxy, the reaction was divided. Some worlds trembled in fear, begging their leaders to surrender. Others were furious, demanding vengeance, swearing they would never bow to humans. But doubt spread like wildfire. If Earth could destroy fleets so easily, what hope did anyone truly have? In private, cracks widened. Small empires contacted human agents in secret, offering allegiance in exchange for safety. Smugglers carried coded messages through the dark, trading loyalty for protection. The Council, once the symbol of unity, now rotted from within. Even among the Council's strongest voices, division spread. Some demanded immediate retaliation, throwing every fleet, every weapon, every resource into one last desperate war. Others whispered that perhaps surrender was the only way to survive. Betrayals brewed in silence. Leaders plotted against one another, each terrified of being the first to fall to Earth's shadow. And through it all, humanity remained silent again. No fleets moved. No new battles were fought. Only the memory of their words lingered, heavy as iron in the minds of the galaxy. On Earth, deep underground, humanity waited. They had spoken their message clearly. The next move belonged not to them, but to the Council. Would the galaxy submit to Earth's new place among the stars, or would it force humanity to unleash the full fury it had hidden for centuries? The waiting was worse than the fighting. Every world, every fleet, every soldier lived with the same question: when would Earth strike again? The first sparks of war lit the galaxy like dry leaves catching fire. The Council could no longer hold itself together. Old alliances shattered, old rivalries returned, and all of it was poisoned by the fear of Earth. On distant colonies, soldiers whispered in their barracks about the fleets that never came home. Citizens looked to the sky, wondering if the dark human ships would appear above them next. Merchants abandoned their routes, leaving worlds without food, medicine, or fuel. The Council's power weakened with every passing day, not because Earth struck again, but because everyone expected it. Fear was the weapon now, and it was sharper than any blade. Then Earth moved once more. Without warning, a fleet of black ships appeared above a Council world on the outer rim. They did not fire. They did not demand. They simply arrived, silent and terrible, casting shadows across the sky. The people below screamed in panic, running through the streets, certain the end had come. For 2 days, the ships hung there, unmoving, a wall of steel blotting out the stars. On the 3rd day, just as suddenly, they vanished into the void. The world had not been touched. Not a shot fired. Not a single building destroyed. But the message was clear: we can come whenever we wish. And you cannot stop us. The Council collapsed further. Some leaders begged for peace, desperate to keep their world safe. Others shouted for war, their pride refusing to let them bow. Armies gathered in haste, fleets were recalled, weapons charged. But none of it brought comfort. Humanity had already shown they could win. Whispers began to spread through the great empires. Entire planets declared they would no longer follow the Council. Some swore allegiance to Earth, sending messages in secret, begging for protection. Others broke away completely, seeking only to survive in the chaos. The galaxy fractured. Civil wars began on worlds that had stood united for centuries. Fleets that once flew under the same banner now turned their guns on one another. And Earth watched. It was not enough to defeat the Council in battle. Humanity wanted them to tear themselves apart, and it was working. In the Council chamber, despair filled the air. The great table where once proud rulers had sat in strength was now a place of shouting and threats. Counselors accused one another of betrayal. Some swore there were spies working for Earth within their very walls. Fear made them blind, and suspicion made them weak. And then, Earth struck again. This time, it was not a fleet. It was not a message. It was an entire system. On the far edge of Council space, 3 worlds burned in silence. Their defenses had been bypassed as if they did not exist. Their fleets never returned. Survivors spoke of weapons that tore ships apart with a single hit, of shadows moving faster than thought. They said the humans did not come to conquer, they came to erase. The Council's panic turned to terror. If Earth could do this to one system, they could do it to all. The war that had begun with silence now spread like fire, devouring everything in its path. Everywhere, people asked the same question: could the Council fight back, or was it already too late? The humans gave no answer. Their fleets vanished into the void, leaving behind only ruin. They spoke no words, sent no transmissions. Only their silence remained, heavier now than ever. But whispers spread. Whispers of a final strike. Whispers that Earth was preparing to move against the heart of the Council itself. Some said the humans wanted revenge. Others said they wanted power. And some, the most fearful of all, whispered that Earth wanted nothing less than the end of the Council forever. The galaxy trembled. Every star seemed colder. Every shadow seemed deeper. And in that silence, everyone knew the end was near. Humanity was coming. The stars above the Council homeworld burned bright, but tonight they seemed colder, sharper, as though the galaxy itself knew what was coming. The fleets gathered there were the largest the Council had ever assembled. Thousands of warships stretched from orbit down into the darkness of space, their engines glowing like a wall of fire. Every race under the Council banner had sent ships, desperate to show strength. Their leaders told their people this would be the moment of triumph, the day humanity was crushed. But deep inside, no one believed it. Every soldier, every captain, every admiral knew the truth. They had seen the footage. They had heard the reports. Earth had destroyed fleets larger than this before. The difference now was simple: humanity had decided to end it. The first warning came in silence. No alarms, no comms, no sound at all. One by one, Council ships found their systems flickering. Lights dimmed. Weapons went cold. Engines failed. Entire armadas drifted helplessly, their crews screaming as their controls went dead. A black shape emerged from the void, sleek, angular, massive. And then another. And another. Soon the darkness itself seemed alive, filled with the shadow of human warships. They had not come in thousands. They had come in hundreds. And it was enough. The first volley lit the void like a new star. Beams of pure energy tore through the Council's defenses, ripping ships apart in seconds. Massive cruisers split in two, their hulls glowing white before vanishing into fire. The Council fired back wildly, desperate to hit something, anything. But humanity's ships moved like predators, weaving through the chaos with impossible precision. Their weapons cut with surgical exactness, dismantling the fleet piece by piece. On the Council homeworld below, panic spread. Cities prepared for bombardment, citizens ran to shelters, leaders shouted orders no one followed. The sky filled with fire as wreckage rained down, glowing metal streaking through the atmosphere. The Council chamber itself shook as the sound of destruction echoed from above. Inside the chamber, fear became desperation. Councillors screamed at one another. "Fight them," some cried. "Surrender," others begged. One stood tall, shouting, "If we kneel now, we are finished forever." Another shouted back, "We are finished already." Then the chamber lights flickered. The screens on the walls glowed to life. And a human face appeared once again. The same calm expression. The same steady voice. The same cold eyes. "You chose this," the human said. "You could have accepted peace. You could have chosen survival. But you demanded war. And so, you will have it." The councillors froze, their voices dying in their throats. "We do not destroy for pleasure. We destroy because you forced our hand. You thought yourselves gods of the stars. You believed no one could rise against you. But you were wrong. Earth has risen. Humanity has endured. And tonight, the council falls. The transmission ended. Above, the battle was already lost. The council fleets broke, their ships fleeing in every direction, scattering like frightened prey. Humanity did not chase them. They did not need to. The council's unity was gone. Their power was gone. All that remained was fear. Then came the final strike. A weapon unlike any seen before emerged from the largest human vessel. A sphere of light, pulsing with violent energy, drifted forward and then split apart into a storm of burning fragments. They streaked across the sky, not toward ships, but toward the planet itself. The Council's homeworld shook as shields shattered, defenses collapsed, and cities vanished in blinding white fire. The chamber fell into chaos, its walls cracking, its ceilings splitting. The Council's proud heart burned in silence, swallowed whole by Earth's fury. When the fire faded, nothing remained. The homeworld was ash, its great towers reduced to rubble, its fleets reduced to drifting wreckage. Across the galaxy, the broadcasts played, showing the Council's end. Billions watched in silence as the empire that had ruled for centuries was erased in hours. Human ships filled the void, their black hulls gleaming with firelight. And then, as swiftly as they had come, they were gone. They did not occupy. They did not demand. They vanished back into the dark, leaving only ruins behind. The message was clear: humanity did not need thrones, or crowns, or councils. They had power. And that power was enough. In the years that followed, whispers spread across the galaxy. Some said Earth would rule the stars now. Others said they would vanish again into silence, waiting for the next threat. But all agreed on one truth: humanity was no longer weak, no longer ignored, no longer underestimated. The age of the Council was over. The age of Earth had begun. And somewhere, hidden deep in the silence of space, humanity prepared once more, not for survival this time, but for destiny.